What's up, everybody? Garrett Chapman jumping in here. We got our friends over on Facebook and on Twitter that we are going to add in, and we are going to get underway. And we are live on Twitter, and now we are live on Facebook. We're live on all platforms. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. My name is Garrett Chapman. This is the Falcons Podcast. Thrilled to have you in here. Excited to kind of dig into what we have coming up here on the slate. Falcons and Buccaneers, they're going to be coming up here tomorrow. So, I mean, it's a day late on the podcast, but we're still going to have a little bit of fun here. Was up at Flowery Branch. Everything was condensed, like all into one day, basically. Jesse Bates was supposed to go yesterday. He ended up going today. But, man, we got Jeff Ulbrich. We got Zach Robinson, Marquise Williams. We got Kirk Cousins. Lots going on. So we'll talk about what I learned up there at Flowery Branch. I'm going to talk about one big thing. The one big reason why I think the Falcons have kind of had their issues this season and why I think that the Falcons have inevitably fallen to below 500 on the season, then will end the season below 500, and why I think that this team ultimately is going to be on the outside looking in when we get to the end of the year. Well, now that they're outside of the playoffs. They're done. Like the season's over. You have 4 weeks left, but we'll talk about that as well. But look, they still have one big thing that I think that they can accomplish this season. There's one thing that I think that the Falcons can kind of dive in and still accomplish, right? Go beat the Bucs. Go play spoiler. You can still beat the Saints. You could still, go play the LA Rams, a team that has your draft pick, a team that you're going to have to hear a lot of commentary from people who don't know what they're talking about why the Falcons made this disastrous mistake and trading their pick and whatever. It's all mumbo jumbo. I don't care about them. You shouldn't either. We've talked about that on this podcast. I've talked about it on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Look, this team is perfectly fine that they traded that draft pick, but not the point. But we still have something that we can accomplish. We still have something that there is ahead of the Falcons here. And the biggest thing is you just play spoiler. You could ruin things for somebody else. And I know it's not even remotely close to what we wanted it to be necessarily at the beginning of the season. And certainly not at this point in the season where we're getting into December and you're going to play 4 meaningless football games largely for what you were hoping to accomplish. And I know a lot of people have also said that they want blood. They want people to get fired. They want everything else. And it's not going to happen. It's become increasingly clear that situation is not going to come to pass during the regular season. Maybe it happens after the season, but that remains to be seen. But we'll get into all of that here on the podcast. If you have questions, let me know. Drop them in the comments. I will take all comments, questions, concerns, thoughts on the matter. We welcome any and everything, and we will I'll try to get to everything that I can. We're going to go for about, 20, 30 minutes or so today, and I do want to kind of go through. We are live here on all platforms, so if you are following us after the fact, make sure to set those calendar reminders and jump in here with us. We're going one day late because, like I mentioned, we were up at Flowery Branch all day yesterday. So, but I do have some other things. We'll talk about this Tampa Bay game and everything else. And actually, let's start right there. What do you say? And I see we've got several people here across all platforms. So jump in drop a question if you have anything, and I'd love to get to it. So you talk about the keys to the game. What are the most important things that the Falcons have to accomplish if they hope to get a win against Tampa Bay? You go back to that game that they played week 1. They lost 23-20. Younghoe Koo misses that field goal, and it just sort of an inauspicious start to what has since been a season of missed opportunities. And that was the first big missed opportunities that the Falcons had. You missed that field goal, and things went awry after that. And I wonder what's going to be different this time around, because the Falcons have lost 7 of the last 8 games. You have a Tampa Bay team who's lost, I believe, 4 of their last 5 and 5 of their last 7. These are 2 teams who are trending in the wrong direction right now. And when you go back through this and ask them, hey, what's going to be different? Well, the first big thing is, I see Dave Kelly just dropped in special teams. Yeah, special teams has to be different. Yeah, you have to figure out special teams. I think that's effectively a given at this point because Marquise Williams and everybody else, that's been the primary topic of conversation. And generally speaking, if special teams is the primary topic of conversation, means your season's not going super well. Joe Patrick over on 92.9 The Game, he discusses this really effectively, and he says it is a barometer for where your season is. If you have a good special teams unit, or likely than not, you're going to be a pretty good football team. All those Bill Belichick teams when they played for the Patriots, when he was the Patriots head coach, and they were winning all the Super Bowls and the division titles and everything else, they had an elite special teams unit. Always did. They always did. And it showed up down the season. I mean, the team that we just played on Sunday, the Seattle Seahawks, that's a team who has an elite defense and elite special teams unit, So it's generally pretty indicative. So yeah, Dave, you're pretty much on the money there. But the first big question for me is, what is the plan to slow down Baker Mayfield? And I don't mean through the air. I mean, effectively just keeping him in the pocket. That's what killed you the first time you played Baker. And this team, these are two completely different teams from the first time they played, right? You have to go back 14 weeks. It's been a long time. It feels like yesterday that this team was playing the Bucs at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the season was kicking off. But Baker Mayfield, he was our leading rusher in that game, and none of those were designed runs. All of those came on scramble drills where the pocket gets busted and he breaks to the outside and he makes something happen with his legs. And it's not even just the plays that he was able to rush in. It was the plays where he was able to, to extend the play. And he was able to, add a couple extra seconds there that the secondary had to cover. And the one that I always point to is what happened at the very end of the game on their final offensive possession before they were kneeling down at the very end. Baker broke out of a sack and rolls out to the outside and pops the ball up to Emeka Egbuka, and that was the go-ahead touchdown. Falcons have to finish those plays. Falcons have to win those moments, and that's going to be a big key here for this team. The next big thing is, how does this Falcons secondary challenge this Buccaneers wide receiver room? Because this is a talented unit, and this may be the first time all season that the Buccaneers have had a full health unit, or a unit at full health. Mike Evans is going to be activated. He's going to be active in this game. Jalen McMillan is going to be activated. He's going to be in this game. Emeka Egbuka, we already talked about him. He is their leading receiver this season, the rookie, like unbelievable. Offensive rookie of the year, probably. You can absolutely make the argument for him. He looks like he might have a 1,000-yard season coming out off the rip, which is just an incredible season here for Emeka Egbuka. And then Chris Godwin, he's also going to be healthy. Cade Otton, he's going to be back in this game. I mean, look, this team is going to be full go. Baker is obviously he's still dealing kind of with that shoulder injury, his non-throwing shoulder. He played last week against New Orleans. Maybe that inhibits his scrambling ability a little bit. We talked to Rick Stroud, or I heard an interview with Rick Stroud, who's with the Tampa Bay Times. He basically said it's Baker's intentionally not run a couple of times this season because he doesn't want to injure himself. He doesn't want to further that injury. So maybe that plays in. Maybe he's a little apprehensive. Maybe that helps the Falcons a little bit in this game, but he's going to have his full arsenal of weapons on the outside for the first time all season. And on the flip side, the Falcons aren't going to have Drake London. We'll talk about the injury report too for the Falcons in a second, but this is a Falcons secondary that started the season really, really well. And since then it's gone not well. And I talk about that. I mean, the Seahawks game, you can talk about that one. You can talk about what Carolina Panthers were able to do against you. I don't think that anybody's necessarily going to run it up in the same way that those guys were able to do it. But this defense has shown that they're able to get got. And I think a lot of the things that come down to what this defense is able to do really start with the offense. Your offense needs to stay on the field, and that's going to get back into one of the biggest things that my big key for why this Falcons team has struggled this season. But this secondary is going to have to step up, and they're going to have their work cut out for them. And then my third one, and I'm going to have 4 of these keys here before we get into this main point. Is this finally the week that Darnell Mooney breaks out? Is this the one? Do we think that Darnell Mooney is actually going to put it all together at some point this season? Because it has been mind-numbingly frustrating to watch this guy play football this year. And I get there are some shortcomings, just specifically with injuries and things like that. But my God, man. My God. And you thought that maybe Kirk Cousins was going to be the guy who unlocked some of that potential. Maybe. Hasn't since come to pass. And it's been so frustrating to watch this. And with Drake London, Drake's not going to play. He was just announced that he was going to be out for Thursday's game. There's no telling when he's going to come back. I know it has sounded like Raheem Morris has been confident that he's going to play going back to last Monday, not this past one, but the one before that, before the Seahawks game. He said he was upgraded from week to week to day. Now he's going to miss his second straight game after that. Now, one of those is a short week. And if this was a normal week, who's to know? Who's to know? He still hasn't lined up and played, right? He still hasn't taken a snap of offense. He still hasn't gone out there and suited up for a single practice. And he's missed 4 games in a row. So he's out indefinitely. I'm not going to hold my breath that he's going to be coming back anytime soon. But I will say Darnell Mooney, I mean, he's the kind of guy who steps up in these big moments. He loves primetime games. Kirk Cousins loves his primetime games. And the last time that the Falcons played the Bucs on a primetime game, that was a classic. That was an instant classic. We're at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Thursday Night Football. Matt Ryan got his number retired, and the game was nuts. Maybe they can kind of pull from some of that. Maybe there's some confidence that they can generate from that. I don't know. I don't know. And they're going to be playing fast and loose. There's nothing left to lose. What are you going to do? Lose? I mean, nothing else changes if you lose this game. So it makes me think that maybe this could be the moment that Darnell Mooney breaks out. But again, like with Drake London coming back from injury, I'm not going to hold my breath. It is fallen short pretty much consistently every single time. And on top of that, Jamel Dean, the cornerback for Tampa Bay, he has not allowed a touchdown in 839 consecutive coverage snaps. That's the second longest among all corners. So maybe this is the week. Maybe. But if it's not Darnell, then it's Sills. I mean, Washington has been a healthy scratch pretty much consistently. Maybe Drummond can step up and do something. Kyle Pitts. I mean, the receiver core has been just a disaster. And a lot of that comes back to Darnell Mooney. They needed him to do a lot, and he hasn't. And that's very disappointing. The last one here, and then I'm going to jump into some of your questions. I see some folks have started to drop that down in the comments, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Drop a comment in there. Can the Falcons run the ball? Can the Falcons run the football? Because Raheem is often called this the lifeblood of the team. Unsurprisingly, you have a Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. You have an offensive line who really cuts their teeth in running the ball. That's what they want to do. And when they don't do it well, they're going to lose. Even if they do it well, you still have a pretty good shot of losing. Thus, they're sitting at 4-9. And when these two teams met in week 1, the Buccaneers and Falcons, Atlanta managed just 69 yards on the ground. Thursday is still going to be a pretty difficult challenge. You know, even though New Orleans was able to find some success against this unit, they go for, I think it was like 140 yards or something in that game. And if the Falcons are able to do some of that, then they'll have a chance to win. They will have a chance. If they go for 140 yards in this one, it'll be tough. And maybe that'll help them with third downs and everything else like that. But this offensive line, I reserve some commentary because, look, I'm not an offensive line coach. I'm not somebody who knows the nitty gritty and the deep details of all of that. But what I do know is that this unit has played on, 75%. I think it's 74.4% of this team snaps this season. The results have not been what they want, right? They're creating just under a yard before contact per carry. It's 0.8 yards yards before contact per carry. That's the 5th worst mark in the NFL. The 5th worst mark in the NFL. For a team who describes the rushing attack as their, quote, lifeblood, that's not good. It's really not good. And a lot of this started when you lose Caleb and Gary. It was pretty much the season felt doomed at that point. It changed my perception of this team, of what they were capable of doing. And since then, it's pretty much proved right. And when you rush outside the tackles, when the Falcons are going outside the tackles, Jake Matthews, Elijah Wilkinson, Falcons their yards before contact decreases to 0.6, which is the 4th fewest in the NFL. Despite running outside, this is an outside zone team. They have one of the highest rates of any offense since 2016. They run outside the tackles 75% of the time. The definition of insanity, if you want to talk about it that way, but that compares to their interior where they've created nearly double that yardage. It's pretty indicative of kind of what the problem that this team has had, right? This team has had a lot of problems, but one of the biggest ones is that they've effectively been pounding their head against the wall when they're rushing the football. And it works really well for one half, and then it's just a dumpster fire in the second half. Or maybe it's really bad and really good bad in the first half, and it's really good in the second half. They just can't put a full game together. They can't do it. And it's one of the reasons they've lost games. It's one of the biggest reasons that they've lost games. And it's very frustrating. But if they can do these things, if they can run the ball effectively, generally that means that they're going to go out and get a win, right? Can they do it against Vita Vea in this front? You better do better than 70 yards. That's what you did effectively in week 1. But if you don't do that, then that's a surefire way to lose. All right, I see Michael Rokeely hits me with the Black Heart, man. Appreciate you. Welcome. Come on in. Edward McKendrick over on Facebook says, offensive coordinator got to go unless he starts calling different plays. Well, he's not going anywhere. I mean, based off of the comments that I've heard from Raheem Morris this week and every other week, basically, there are no coordinator changes, special teams, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. There are no coordinator changes. There are going to be no other coach firings or anything else like that. If they do if there are terminations, then I would imagine that everyone's going to go at once, or I don't know how it's all going to work at that point, but we're not there yet. Dave Kelly over on Facebook drops in a big comment, says, there's so many special teams units: kickoff, kick return, punt return, field goal, and field goal block. We start from behind 30 at the highest rate in the NFL. Our team will be competitive, but not only will special teams not put us over the top, but very likely one of those units will also doom us. Yes, Dave, it's been consistently one of the most frustrating things about watching this team this year, about covering this team, following this, whatever. This team, it's always something different. Jamal Agnew was brought in here to be a world beater, and he has more beaten your team down more often than not. The fumble against the New York Jets was just the icing on the cake, right? When that happened, I mean, you felt some momentum just shoot out the window. It's a free touchdown. You're giving away 6 points for free. And it cost you the game. It cost you the game. It's one of the biggest reasons why you lost, right? And then you also had kickoff coverage that was just doomed to fail in that one. You had a blocked kick in that game. If it's not one thing, it's the other. And there are a lot of reasons for that. You can blame coaching. You can blame injuries, which Josh Woods has missed several games. Kadero Hodge wasn't even active in that game. D'Angelo Malone has missed a lot of games, and he's on the IR. He's done for the season. DeMarco Helms is now on the IR. He's one of your guys there. This team has been banged up, specifically with your special teams contributors, and I think it's cost you. It really has. And it's not an excuse, because you need to have a next man up mentality. You got to go find those guys, but it makes it extremely frustrating when the Falcons are a team who has invested pretty heavily in their special teams players. They have a lot of guys who are their only job, really, when they came in here, was to be a special teams contributor. And they're still universally, like across the board, one of the worst units in the NFL. And that's one of those more frustrating things. August 809 says, Raheem and Fontenot and their bad decisions, Cousins-Penix saga was never going to work. Well, it looks pretty good at the beginning of last season when you start 6-3 and you look well into a postseason run. Kirk gets hurt. Kirk got hurt, and the rest was history. And again, if he doesn't get hit in New Orleans and get injured, and maybe you're looking at a different situation. And maybe if the trust that he had in the organization wasn't completely and totally fractured and severed, then maybe he would have told the Falcons that he was hurt and would have trusted that they were going to reinstall him as the starter. Instead, we are where we are. So never going to work. I don't know. I mean, you invested a lot of money into a guy who's coming off of an Achilles injury. It was going to be risky. And then you invest behind him in a guy who, he said, now 3 season-ending knee injuries. So it's, in hindsight, yeah, it does not look great. But Penix came in and he looked really good at the end of last year. I remember a lot of people were pretty excited, myself included. And it just seems like we had potentially just unrealistic expectations for it. And that part is very disappointing. Milltown says, we're good on primetime games and Buccaneers can't beat Kirk for some reason. Maybe. I mean, look, Falcons have played really well in primetime. I think I put this into a piece that I wrote a couple of days ago. Going back to the Raheem Morris era, I think they have a pretty overwhelmingly good record. I don't know what it is offhand. I want to say it's like 5-2 or something. Because you played the Eagles on Monday night. You lost that game to the Commanders, but you played really well. You beat the Bucs last year in this situation, and you have 2 more games on prime time, including Thursday. So you get a good performance in this game, and then you potentially go and get a win against the Rams, which you can go play spoiler, and wouldn't you know, that'd be pretty great. Who knows? We'll see. Furball 9186. I've seen Ray Ray's post. That's end of Raheem. Well, maybe he's a cut player. He's a journeyman wide receiver. I mean, it's his word over Raheem's, I guess. Unless there's a new one that I haven't seen. I saw the one about him quote tweeting like Chris Paul or whatever. But I don't know. We'll see. I think wins and losses are probably more indicative of that. You don't have to be the best friends with all your players necessarily not to your point. What is it? Draw Nelson 5930. I don't blame this team that it's quit on the coach and staff for this dysfunctional organization. Stay healthy as a player for next season and pray to be released ASAP. Go win somewhere else. Well, that's a terrible mentality. Yeah, it says, it's a terrible mentality. I'm not going to, these are professional athletes. That's their job to go play football. And no, you don't wave the white flag like that. I don't condone that stuff. Patrick Wiltsey says, aloha to Falcons World. Aloha. I take it that you're out in Hawaii, maybe. Cool. Welcome. It's good to have you in here. Rusty Moore Jr. says, did you see Ray Ray's IG post? He was basically talking ish about Raheem and Michael Penix, AJ, and Hodge for his comments showing support for Ray Ray. I think Raheem has lost the locker room. Okay, well then this seems to be something that is new. Let me take a look. If somebody has the link and they want to drop it in there, I can go check this out. Well, let's see. I'm actively looking at his his Instagram. So I don't see anything here. Interesting. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. Very interesting. And AJ Terrell is supporting him. I see that. Okay. Yeah. Well, interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know necessarily what this means. So you have Kadero Hodge who's in there. You've got a handful of other people who just made a post. And maybe this could mean a lot of different things. I don't necessarily want to take this and run too far with it. Maybe they're just supporting their old teammate. Maybe they're buddies. I don't know. I don't know if this is necessarily indicative that they have lost the locker room, Raheem. It might just have more to do with the fact that they support a former teammate. Maybe. I mean, it's like you have a terminated friend who gets fired from their job or something like that, and you make a comment saying, "Hey, wishing you the best, hoping all is well." That may just be all this is. It may be something else. We'll see. I think this is something that could come up later. So I appreciate all of you. So this has been added to my watch list. So I'm going to take a look at this. Yeah, Rusty Moore continues, says, Ray Ray's post was today and current players were in his comments putting 100. That could mean a lot of things. Again, this could mean a lot of things. I don't know. I don't know the full story. That's interesting, though. I think that is really interesting. Okay. I know Ray Ray's been posting a lot of different things here on social media and on Instagram and stuff like that. Maybe it means something. Certainly he's entertaining. I know that for a fact. But Cool. Well, let me keep looking here. I'm gonna see if anybody else has commented. No, I don't see anybody else. Okay. I'm also just doing this live in a video, so who knows? Maybe I'm missing somebody if I'm not. But if you want to go back to one of the big reasons why this team has struggled this year, I can point to one major reason. It is their inability to convert on third down. Not crazy, right? Not the wildest thought. I don't think anybody's necessarily blown away. That's not going to change somebody's life necessarily when I say that, but take a look at the numbers. Falcons are terrible on third down. And if you go back to this stretch of games where they're losing football games, right? If you are looking specifically at this stretch of their last 8 games where they've lost 7 of them, they're converting 22% on third down. 22%. They were 1 of 13 last week against Seattle. Now, on the season, they're 31st in the NFL with a 31% conversion rate. So it was a little bit better a little bit before that. And you have the one game against San Francisco where you're okay. Like, you're okay. You're 31st in the NFL in conversion rate. You have the league's worst EPA, estimated points added, per play on third down. And no team in the NFL has fewer third down conversions than the Atlanta Falcons. They have 48. 48 on the season. And if you want to talk about how important this is to the success of a football team, Ben Baby on ESPN, he put out a tweet that's perfect, a perfect representation of the good teams convert, the bad teams don't. Right? And he sent this out. He posted it on Twitter. You can go check it out. I reposted it on my own account. At Ben_Baby is Ben Baby. He's ESPN's Cincinnati Bengals reporter. You can give me a follow at GChatBTL. You can go check it out there as well. And in case anybody needed some of that reinforcement, you look at who the bad teams are and who the good teams are. And it's a graphic. It's like an XY graph, right? And the teams in the top right, you get the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Bears, the Bills, the Rams, Texans, and really just anybody above that Mendoza line. Those teams, including some not so good teams who just convert well on third down, and maybe they just don't finish drives, or there are other reasons, obviously. But the teams who are above that Mendoza line are 133 and 87. 10 of the 14 teams in the playoffs right now are above that Mendoza line. The teams who are not, a la the Falcons, 87, 120, and 1. 87, 120, and 1. And if you talk about the teams that are just around the Falcons, 35 and 82. 35 and 82. And some of the good teams, I guess you could say, who are below this Mendoza line, like the Steelers, the Colts, the Jags, the Eagles, the Bucks, not the Steelers, they're all extremely aggressive on fourth down. Extremely aggressive on fourth down. So maybe they'll fall short on third down, and then they flip the script, but it's because they're going for it on fourth, and they're just trying to set up a shorter field. That's why the Falcons have struggled the way that they have. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. And what is so mind-numbing is that they have known this for weeks now, and they still have not been able to get this done. They have been consistently below their dreadful number of 31% for several weeks now, on a week-to-week basis. Every single week, they are not converting third downs. And I've asked several times, and I've heard basically the same answer most times. I mean, they give me a little bit more basically every time. And they're struggling on first down. And I think a lot of this comes back to their inability to run the ball effectively, and they're not getting good, consistent carries. Offensive line play has not been very good. You have blown assignments on third down. People aren't making plays. You're dropping the football at wide receiver. They're just not good enough. They're just not good enough. There's a reason this team is on the outside looking in the postseason. They're just not good enough. And It's kind of where it comes back to. And that's just what I keep coming back to. Because the more I hear, oh, it's execution, it's execution, it's execution. Okay, then fix it. Tells me that these guys just aren't good enough. And it's disappointing. It's really disappointing. And I think injuries have played a role in this. And I think play calling has played a role in this. But it's just general poor play. And if it's not one thing, it's the other. It's very similar to what the issues have been on special teams. If it's not one thing, it's something else. And right now it's third down offense. Generally speaking, you need to be playing pretty good third down defense too. And the Falcons are okay there, but they start well and then they generally start teetering. All right, go back to your comments. I'll take a couple of more and then we'll call it a night here. We do have the Falcons podcast coming up, and I'm going to be doing it on Friday instead. So it's Wednesday, Friday podcast this week instead of a Tuesday, Thursday. Generally, that's when we do it because we have a Thursday game, and it's kind of thrown the whole week for a loop. But I appreciate all of you guys jumping in here on a Wednesday night here. We got 24 hours, and we'll be watching some Falcons football. Let's see another comment here. Atlanta is bad on third down, and the lack of wide receiver doesn't help. Honestly, going an all offseason without any addition to the offense is the reason we are here. Zero upgrades and zero competition. I agree. I completely agree. I think I've said it on this podcast a handful of times. I mean, generally, when you don't add any talent to one side of the football, it regresses because this happens in the NFL. So it's a roller coaster of results. It's just the way it is. It's because margins are razor thin and things change quickly, right? I mean, expecting Ray McLeod, speaking of which, expecting him to come back and replicate what he was able to do last year, I think was a little ambitious. Expecting your guys to be completely healthy and have no real other options down the stretch, it's a little ambitious. You need to add some guys. And look, it's been a lot of shortcomings. Casey Washington has not been good enough. He hasn't been up to snuff. And that's just a reality. I think the wide receiver position, though, has been the most glaring. But even if just Caleb McGarry doesn't get hurt, if you still have that guy, I think we might be talking about a slightly different Falcons team this year. All right, last one here. Halsey HFW says, but all the Falcons needed during the offseason was defense. People were begging for an all-defense draft. They were, and they almost did an all-defense draft. People forget that Jack Nelson was drafted. Not me. I remembered, but we haven't seen him on the field really at all this year. So he's been mostly a healthy scratch for much of the season, but kind of where this team is. It's kind of the situation that they find themselves in, but we shall see. Maybe they can go get a win. Maybe they can go play spoiler. They're going to be an underdog here on Thursday. I think the work is cut out for them. You're not going to have Drake London. But we'll see if they can create some magic, and we'll react to it. So we'll have the Falcons post-game show, the reactions and everything else will coming up on Friday, and we will get all of that for you and more. But my name is Garrett Chapman. This has been the Falcons Podcast. Give me a follow at GChatBTL. I appreciate all of you who jumped in, no matter where you're getting your podcast, whether you're listening live, which I encourage you to do, or if you're listening after the fact, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. We really appreciate you. Till next time, go Falcons.